Today, we're having more Cosplay Conversations with myself and Tacocat. I'm Rob Swackhammer, and this is Make Them Awesome. Hey everyone, it's Rob, and over there is Kirsten working on
Not making a mess of hair.
not making a mess of hair, and for once Tao finally settled down where before, when we were getting this shit together, she was wandering all over the place.
Yeah, if you've seen my Instagram story, you know that I'm enjoying the fun of knotting hair onto lace. Again.
Again. And probably many more of that in the future, who knows, right?
There's at least like 3 or 4 others on the list lace fronted. Though the number one on that list, even though I've kind of bypassed number one to work on that, is supposed to be Chibi Moon because I want that to be lace front.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get there eventually.
Eventually, yes. So, and actually, considering the wig you're currently working on, we are actually planning on doing a photo shoot after 8 months of not being able to do shit.
Yeah, we're gonna have fun trolling around a nice park-ish
Yeah,
area.
yeah. And that's
Yeah.
actually one thing I've noticed some of our online friends have done, because they said they had been out of doing photo projects for some time, and they're now feel like they can, primarily outside, which there's a lot to that. Uh, so I guess really it would just be, well, okay, does the character you want to shoot fit an outdoor scene, and go from
hmm
there. So
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that other friends doing that because I know Rizuki on Facebook. I don't know if she posted it today or yesterday, but she posted some pictures of her Aerith, and she was like, "This was the first shoot I did since March 1st."
mm-hmm.
And I was like, "Oh yeah, that I feel that."
Yeah, I mean, well, the last proper project we did was Dark Elegance, honestly. Um,
When did we do that?
that was November of last year.
Oh, so we haven't really done crap this year.
Yeah, I mean, literally the only other stuff we've had was from the photo demos from Ikicon and Ushicon.
Well,
So, so I guess there is that. But hopefully we can go do it. Oddly enough, Halloween, but it's going to be sunny out, so hopefully it'll play nice with the place we're going to go to.
yeah, hopefully not rainy.
Yeah, yeah. Three days of real. Did you see how cold it's going to be? It's going to be like in the 50s here. Fuck. I thought I left Iowa. Come on,
Dude,
Jesus.
50s isn't that cold. We're not gonna have frozen people in the sky.
Yeah, that's when you definitely stay home because you don't trust any of the other drivers. Okay. So last week we actually had our very first World Without Cons conversation with some of our cosplay friends, and actually originally we were going to do World Without Cons musician version, but unfortunately it fell through. I was going to say, what was that for?
Oh, there was something like hanging off my 3D printer that I didn't want to fall.
Ah, gotcha. So anyway, we
I
invited our
have like
friends Rizuki. Oh
these.
yeah, that would have made noise if it fell. So we had
Yeah,
Rizuki, Wigwood
I was like,
Cosplay, and Kai Hikari join us, and that was some
they're all great.
what's that?
I said they're all great, and we had a great conversation.
Yeah, like because I said an hour, and I kind of expected it to run to 90, and it went 2 fucking hours.
And we could have talked for longer if you weren't like, okay, guys, let's keep on going.
Yeah, um, but there was a few things I wanted to talk about actually from that conversation. The one thing that really, really got me was how we all hate social media.
Like, it's great to connect you to people that you're not near, but it sucks at the same time so much.
Yeah, just oh, and actually, if I may have a quick aside, fucking Facebook with the format change.
Okay, I hate getting on the computer and like opening up Facebook, and it looks like a stupid mobile page.
Yeah, that's what it is.
I'm like,
And there
I
was,
hate this.
well,
Keep the
and there was,
mobile to the mobile.
yeah, and there was a plugin called Old Format, which had worked for a while.
They
That,
removed it.
well, there was that. Well, the plugin is still out there. You can get it in the Chrome store, but Facebook pushed out a code change, which broke it. The guy figured out how to get around it, and they broke it again within 6 hours. Fuck!
This is where Rob is cursing a certain Zuckerberg.
God, I'd like to punch him in the Facebook. I swear to God.
With the
'Cause-
book, though. You have to keep it funny. You got him in the face with the book.
Yeah, but it was like I said. I was greatly amused by the fact that we all hate it, and it's just kind of this weird necessary evil. And it's not even just Facebook. I mean, Instagram, but it's technically Facebook because it's the same company now. Twitter here is a great example. YouTube is another one. I mean, probably as far as just from my observation, if there's any engine currently at least a little more benevolent for content discovery, it's probably Google itself. Because there's actually more tools you can actually utilize that, one, actually helps increase from a usability standpoint for every user, which is alt text in photos is a great example. And then just from there, they're not super pay to play. If you put in, certain terms, you're going to show up. And there's actually ways to find out where you rank against certain search terms. And there's good analytics.
Yeah, and there's things you can do that would help where you are in the search.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, like if you're selling online, it's better to have a white background because Google prefers images with a white background for whatever item. So then okay, well, if I want this scene, I need a white background.
Yeah.
That's at least for the shopping via Google. I don't know about normal images, but if you're looking at like buying stuff, then that's where that comes in, and it would help you.
Yeah, so. I was going to say, as far as that goes, I mean, the shopping bit makes sense. I haven't seen anything for literally every other content, especially now because dark mode is such a thing. Mm-hmm. So, if you go look at our website design, that's what I want. It was kind of like a dark mode type style.
And at least as far as I'm aware, they don't deny the fact they're making changes, unlike Facebook, who's like, we didn't change the algorithm. We don't make it, less about likes and more about saves and shares. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Google, thankfully, is more forthcoming about, hey, this is what we're going to do, so you understand and can, change for it. So, I was going to say another part that struck us as very interesting, because you and I have talked about this, was the online community aspects that have now been adopted. I was going to say, and what did somebody send you? Because you look like, oh God, what got
My mom sent me a picture of Tao looking at your beer, and she just like zoomed in on Tao.
Oh.
It was funny.
So, but no, with the, without having cons, and seeing all the adoption of certain online communities, whether it be Discord or Facebook or whatever, it was interesting to see us all agree that this was probably a good thing, because now we can use it to bridge gaps between events. Especially for those who may not have local cons, or at least decent ones, and they have to travel to go to a good event. It could definitely help in that way.
Tao is trying so hard to get your attention.
What? He's like, I'm just laying here, damn you. So going back to the bridging the gap between events, I'm really kind of hoping that that's actually something that sticks around for a while, honestly, because I think it's something that will help communities overall. And
Well, and I don't remember if it was Wigwig or Rizuki that brought that up, that it's nice now, instead of I only talk to these people around the convention and then nothing for a couple months and then around a convention and then nothing and convention alternating like that. Well, now it's, well, there's no convention, so if you're going to talk to your friends, you better just talk to them.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, and actually, that makes a good makes for a good segue to another part that we discussed was our relationships with cons. Um, especially for those who hit up so many per year for whatever reason. Um, kind of re-examining our engagement in some way. Like Kai had mentioned, the first con she's going to go to, whenever it is, like her and her friends, like, we're not doing any photo groups, we're not doing any like costume groups, we're not doing any contests, we're just gonna go fucking hang out. Um,
Mm.
and
Rizuki
to
said something similar too about
what's
more of the cherishing the people aspect rather than the do stuff.
yeah, and for me, I think that's always kind of been in a way, a problem I've kind of had with cons overall is we kind of, for some reason, and I honestly don't know where this comes from, is that for some reason people overstimulate themselves at a con. And I don't know why. I mean, it's a very good question.
I also don't know how some people pull off doing like the 3 or 4 costumes in one day and
Yeah.
doing photo shoots for all of those costumes. They're crazy.
Yeah, I don't understand the point of that. And maybe going back to the whole hatred of social media, is it potentially that just to like crank out content and avoid the FOMO and all that bullshit?
Maybe because like we also talked about how the photo shoots at conventions are convenient because, well, you're there with your costume and there's the photographers.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really need to work hard to get something set up with them because they're already there.
Yeah.
I think it was Wigwig that mentioned that specifically, and maybe it kind of plays into that. Though, okay, well, they're here. I can work with all of these different photographers and get all of these different costumes done, so that I have content for however many months.
Right. So, like I said, it makes that part makes me wonder how many more people are kind of having similar conversations. In, like I said, re-examining their relationship with cons. And I think it might really be needed, especially from a mental health perspective. So
Yeah, it might be, especially if it is like a drive for content that is making people do this. Because we especially talked about that you don't need to post things, post at your leisure, and
hmm
especially now with a lot of people not necessarily having new content, which is one thing I've been looking at. It's like, okay, well, do I want to post anything today? If so, what image am I basically going to repost?
yeah,
So there's a lot of recycling of material now.
yeah. I mean, if anything, because I know there's some stuff prior to the creation of MTA, we could, like I could go back and repost. Um,
Hmm.
so there is that, but then again, once I get past that point, kind of like, well, is it actually
Hmm.
worthwhile? So I don't know. Like I said, hopefully
And
we
I'm
can just
also hoping I eventually get around to the Halloweenifying that and taking a few selfies.
yeah. So
I have some decorations, I just haven't put them up there.
yeah.
So,
So and actually, let's once again another great segue here, because this was something that was kind of talked about during the stream, but I want to kind of talk about in its own separate context. Was the collaborative aspects of photo shoots. With us here at MTA, I joke that everybody is a creative director because we all bring in various pieces.
hmm.
So one, there was a few pieces I want to talk about where we kind of all work together on this because we haven't really had a chance to do so yet and share it with people. So one part that always gets us motivated is when an idea comes around that has really limited depictions of it in official art. Like a great example, Love Live. Because you'll see costumes, but you typically only maybe see 2 or 3 official art images. And a lot of them, most of them don't even have backgrounds, most of the time.
Or you can't find the picture of the back.
Yeah. So
Say that
That's been one very interesting thing for us is that how we all just kind of fill in the gaps. Um, and just how everybody just talks about it and stuff. So, well, and actually another great one, which is on the project list that is really fucking long at this point, was Fruits Made from Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Because there's like really there's two original version images and then there's one slightly updated version.
Well, there's a couple. Yeah, there's the like Sailor Moon Cafe stuff, which the inners are just in their fruit made outfits.
Yeah.
They changed Phoebe's design because she was in
Mm-hmm.
the original stuff, one of those two images, and then the outers now have their own thing, and it's different than how a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I'll do the outer scout, and I'm just gonna change the color scheme.
Right.
But yeah, there's not too much content for that. It's mostly the same pose, just put on different merchandise.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and within that, because obviously trying to find a cafe to go do a photo shoot, that would be really damn difficult. So there was a lot of how we talked about, well, what are the other pieces we can pull from? And there was an image of them, or of the inners, actually I think it was the inners minus Chibi and Sailor Moon, was on the one fruitcake. If you remember that one. Because there's like kiwi and strawberry and stuff like that.
You talking about the one where they're laying down and it's like from above?
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, so that's like a solid background and there's fruit like scattered around them.
Okay, that I was trying to remember what it was exactly. So
like, when you said cake, that's where you lost me.
Oh, okay. But we kind of, for some of the idea building, we kind of actually pulled the whole fruit idea out and try to see like what could we potentially do with that.
Well, and one of the things I had mentioned that would be fun is what if we brought in some of the stuff from like the figures they've done? Because there's a cute one of Usagi, and she's in like the little ice cream cup, like with her little spoon and stuff. And we're like, what if we could try to do something like that?
Yeah. So, and I think that's like actually one of the really fun aspects for us when we're putting together this project is the fact that a lot of the official art is so limited.
Mm-hmm.
And we, like I said, we fill in the gaps. So, I genuinely have no idea how to pronounce your name, man. So, but hey, thanks for hanging with us here. So, the other thing, and this is actually something we do a lot of, and I'm kind of surprised. Finding random things that lead to the creation of an idea.
You're talking about Lauren and her shopping addiction. My sister will be looking online and like, oh my god, I love these shoes. We need to use them in something. Or this dress, I need to use it. Or one time, it was a free sample wig we got from Arta Wigs. She was like, I need to use this. Let's build a shoot around this wig.
Yeah, there's been so many times where Lauren and I have gone online clothes and accessory shopping. Seriously.
And hello, egg cosplays.
So, eggs, how's it going? So, or egg. She is singular, so it's one egg, not eggs.
Okay, fine. Only one egg in that basket.
Yes. But not only that, but the one time you actually found LED wings on Wish.
Oh, that random ad. It was either on Facebook or Instagram, and I screenshotted it to Rob, and I'm like, dumb idea. What if we used this?
Yeah. So if anybody's ever seen our light painting demos at various cons, that's kind of what drove the idea of just buy them. And we haven't... And unfortunately, we haven't had time to do the project yet, but it's going to be really involved with light painting.
Really fun, though. Whether it's the person, like, getting the photos taken of them doing it, or having someone else dance around, flapping wings to create some cool pattern.
So, but I think the concept, which we'll say is around space, I think it's going to be very interesting once we can actually go in there and pull it off. But that's not only the other thing. Like, one thing I like doing, And to a degree, you do this too, because you go to places like Austin Creative Reuse, which is a fantastic place. And
Like finding random stuff.
finding random things, like actually one thing I do, uh, well, before everything else going on right now, one thing that I would do is actually go to places like Michael's. I go to places like Joanne. Um, Hobby Lobby every so often because I don't really like to support them. I go to like Home Depot and Lowe's, especially during the spring or Halloween. And I go look, I'll just go look around.
So what about the 12-foot skeleton that Lauren really wants?
A friend of mine wants one. He hasn't been able to get one either, so
Oh. Okay, we need to get one and use it for something.
yeah.
I'm just Lauren and some giant skeleton. It's gonna be our mascot.
What was the dragon that I think Allie found it? That I think Home Depot was selling? The one that would actually breathe smoke? Because he put a smoke machine?
Smoke, but I don't know if it really moved much.
No, it didn't. That was the only problem was um oh, there we go. Oh, I like that.
That would be hilarious. Using that as a mannequin.
Make a huge ass Sailor Fuku and put a Sailor Moon wig on it. That would be.
Then you need multiple of them, so you can have all of the scouts.
Oh God!
And just an army of skeleton Sailor Scouts.
So actually, I have this great shirt. Damn it, Tao! Stop going back there. Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Photo shoot on stilts. So, actually, one of my favorite shirts, and I think I've shown it to you, is actually a skeletal version of Sailor Moon, where it's basically a skeleton with the fuku and the wig, and it just says Sailor Death. It's like one of my favorite shirts ever. But, like going back to, just walking around places, not actually very specifically looking for things, but something that always sparks something, even if it may not actually lead to a project, is actually just walking around and paying attention. And just kind of finding items like, that would be kind of interesting. And I'll take a photo. Sometimes I'll throw it in the team chat. And God damn it, Joe, stop that. You bump the cable every time. Jesus.
She's just having a good old time. She's needy.
And also for me, it's to get away from the computer, get away from social media, get away from, the camera, and just kind of, as a photographer I follow says, take a picture with your eyes, as an example. And I think that helps me a lot as a creative, honestly, when it comes to our photo shoots. I say, but yeah, like you said earlier, Lauren is great about the random stuff, and we just go do something.
She likes shopping too much. That's really what this gets to, is she likes to shop everything. You don't want to know how big her shoe, purse, clothing, makeup, or anime merch collections are.
What's the joke I have? Where she said she had too many clothes, and I said so it's like, is all your clothing just like all your noble phantasms that you've collected over time? You're like Gilgamesh of clothes. You're Moon Mesh. I mean, so there you go.
And then what I do at ACR is I'll wander around, because I have a huge list of costumes I want to make, or things that are somewhat kind of in progress. They'll be like, oh, hey, here's these beads I can use for this, or this lace trim, or whatever. Or heck, like the leather that I used for the belts and corset for my Project Ebon Blade Illyria.
Mm-hmm.
That I found for $20 at Austin Creative Reuse, and I was like, I wanted to work with leather, and this is really cheap, and there's a lot of it. It is coming with me.
Well, it's kind of like I've bought stuff, because I'll find like rolls of fabric. It's like, hey, I could potentially use this for a background or something, because it looks interesting. So there is
huge. Like some of their bolts are really wide bolts that are more than 50 inches.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and actually, Dimaru, there's actually a friend we both have in common, Lorelei from Colony Drop, who actually is in the princess community. Doing parties for kids and stuff for their birthdays. And she actually told me once that really just kind of throwing random crap together to make an outfit, kids love that. And I think also that does actually lead to some inspirations, like how we take certain characters that we know and love and actually put them into a different environment. Punk Sailor Moon is a great example
Mhm.
because there's so many different ways everybody would interpret that idea.
Or just that you dress up a character. Maybe the character is very basic, and you go, okay, I'm gonna put some lace and sequins, and you're gonna just bling it out. Oh, not idle excessive, but
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna dress it up more and give it a twist. Maybe it doesn't have embroidered details, and you do that, and that gives it a very interesting twist.
Yeah, and I think that's another space we like to play around. Is like, well, everybody knows this particular view. Well, and actually, there's a great example, Love Live Halloween, where those costumes weren't in any official
They're
art.
random. Because how did we even come up with making Lauren slash Hanukkah a ringmaster? I don't know how we got to that, but we're like, you know what? Hanukkah would be a freaking ringmaster. We're doing that.
Well,
I did Witch Katori, so I was like, well, I have stuff. I can make a little witch costume. And Allie decided to be a vampire.
yeah, and I think that was actually part of it. We were actually trying to figure it out was what she should be, and we didn't want to go with anything super generic like a zombie or something like that. I think, or a Frankenstein type.
Really generic things already because we had a witch and a vampire. Now, the way we went about making them, Allie kind of took different Love Live outfits and pieced them together and changed color schemes to make a cute vampire, while I worked with the like Halloween MHA images and is like, okay, let me take this and change it a little like this and do
Hmm.
this to it, and now it's an idol.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and actually, Maru mentioned Toho cosplay, especially in Japan, where they do a lot of that. You know, kind of the visual remixing. I think is a great way to phrase it, honestly. So as far as going back to Hanukkah as a ringmaster, I think honestly we were just browsing costumes online while like because we were in Lauren's room while she's like playing Monster Hunter.
Yeah, we were in there. That's when we are like, oh my gosh, this is it. And
Yeah,
Lord's just like, sure.
yeah, pretty much. So that's how that happened. So the other one other piece I have on here, and I think this is especially true for myself, is pulling from personal history for a photo shoot idea. So there, well, and actually, Allie has done this too, and I mean, to a point, we kind of do this with any character we know and love. Is we kind of always put in pieces of ourselves in various ways. Um, like there's a, I'm not going to get into what project this is because eventually it's going to happen, and I want it to happen, is where I actually pull from my love of chiptunes and chiptune visuals and the demo scene and stuff like that. And I really want to apply that in a very interesting way, but it also makes sense for the characters we're going to present. So there's that. There's also a project that Allie was actually the biggest driver for, where she wants to do a particular version of Ellie from Love Live, and we're going to try to present it in a way that makes sense for what that version is, but also make it very much our own. In that
Well, then
regard.
even like the space one you hinted at, we haven't talked about full details for it yet, but I mean, as soon as we were like, we're doing something spacey, I'm like, okay, well, if we use any other images like to add cool backgrounds, we need to look at this galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
star cluster, this nebula, and because I'm a space geek, if you can't tell, I have a space llama. And
Yeah.
I'm like, astrophysics is my thing. I know great things we can use.
Yeah. Well, and to that point, kind of going back to Lauren, to a degree, some of her,
Some
you
of her
think it's
stuff could
just
even
out.
just be like we'll mention an idea, and she's like, okay, I got exactly how we're doing the makeup to get the effect and this and that and this.
Hmm.
Like, she's really good about piecing together random outfits and coming together with like an overall look that meshes very well, which
Yeah.
sometimes it's hard to get a very smooth look going and not have it disjointed where things don't match.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and to that point, like there were some sets because she very much wanted to explore herself as a creative. When the Sun is Down and Dark Elegance were two shining examples of that. So,
When she wanted to blow up coffin, pool floaty.
God, yeah. It's funny how just that one damn item, and I posted in the team chat, and Lauren's like, I gotta do something with this, and
Started with
off
the
we
floaty,
fucking
and then she's
go.
like, "Let me go look at swimsuits." And she's like, "Here's swimsuits I want that will look great with the pool floaty."
And all the accessories and stuff that we went and looked for, and
And rip the ice we chucked into the pool.
yeah, I'm glad I just like said, because we had brought in a fog machine, but unfortunately it was too much wind, and I'm just like, Louise, fuck it, chuck the dry ice into the pool, and it worked better.
It did. It's pretty cool.
So, the last thing I have here under this particular subject is how, and I mean, mainly part of this I know has come from us working together for as long as we have, was how everybody on the team kind of instinctually understands certain aspects of doing the photography and the editing, but I never actually super talk in a technical way. Like a great example that I thought of, like if I say I'm going to underpower a light to bring shadow drama, you know what I'm talking about.
Hmm.
So, and I think that's actually one thing that's also helped us for our demos is I never talk like super technical. Because I think when people see the lights and, like I said, because we've worked together so long now, you understand why I'm bringing in certain modifiers and what I want to achieve. So you can kind of be
Yeah,
like,
you don't
oh,
necessarily
hey,
have to like way into the detail and talk about the jargon that goes with it, because the jargon is where you will lose people with whatever subject you're talking about.
mm-hmm,
When you can be like, "Oh, I'm gonna do this to make cool dramatic shadows," and it's like, okay, I accept that. You don't necessarily need the full explanation of how it works.
yeah. So, and that's kind of how I approach it.
Well, or another thing that the shadowing reminded me of. So when we did our photo demos at Anime on Ice, like specifically like the Elsa and the Yuri on Ice,
Yeah.
when it was like, Rob, what if we did dramatic lighting, this pose and this for Elsa, and
Mm-hmm.
it would look great? And Rob was like, oh, we can do that by doing this thing, and let's do it. Because once you kind of have an idea, and especially Rob, if you tell him random idea that's playing with the lights, he'll be like, oh, we can do it by doing this, and that works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and yeah, you're right. Make it accessible, because I think
Mm-hmm.
especially once people see the result, they won't forget. So.
And Dimar, I get that because, like I said, I do astrophysics. I'm a physics major, and I work in classes. And even though I'm just about done with my bachelor's, I'm helping people who are new to physics courses. So figuring out a way to take, this huge jargony explanation and making it something more digestible is definitely a skill to have.
So you just reminded me of something. When I was last employed, I was actually a project coordinator for a program at Dell where it was to help directors and executive directors make the next step in their career to become like vice presidents. And there was a very interesting concept I found from one of the mentors that brought it up, was called Saturday Talk, where you really kind of condense it down into stuff that's understood without being overly technical. And I got to think about it, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
well, that is actually how VPs and above communicate a lot of the time, especially in public communications. So it was interesting to get that, and now that you've said that, and it comes to mind again, just just that's where that is. So actually, real quick, Kristen, since you had put this on your table there,
Yes, I did. I thought you
so
would get that.
yeah, so remember we are doing a giveaway. So we have an embroidery kit, starter embroidery book, and how many pieces was that embroidery kit?
I think it's like 200 pieces or something like that. There's a lot of different floss. There's some metallic, multicolored needles, weird hooky things, some scissors. I don't know all the words for them. But there's also a book that has projects as well
Mhm.
as talking about some different stitching methods. So it's a good little book.
Yeah, and also we're going to also be tossing in a $25 Artowigs gift card. So there's actually three different or four different ways to get an entry. One, if you go find the post where we have a photo of these items on either my Instagram, well, at Make
The
Them Awesome,
MTA
the
Instagram.
MTA Instagram. I always think about it as mine because I always it's pretty much my
Yeah,
account.
you're the one that runs it.
Yeah. There's also the same post on Tacocat's account where we want you to like it and actually comment on what you would do with either the gift card or the embroidery set. You can also share that post in an IG story and just tag the
You have to
both of
tag us
us.
stuff so we see it.
Yeah, tag the both of us. So each of those count for one entry, but one way you can actually get two entries in one shot is to actually follow this Twitch channel. We're broadcasting every other Sunday. We're going to look at maybe adding some more things. We're still trying to figure that out, that landscape. We are going to continue our World Without Cons at some point, just trying to get that all scheduled. So, but yeah, if you're looking for a gift card for Arda or wanting to potentially get started in embroidery, that's a great way to do it. Potentially do it.
Like
So, we
this
will be
stuff
announcing the winner.
has
Yeah,
so many colors.
so many colors. We are going to be announcing the winner on November 1st. We'll just do a short stream. And there's actually something else we're going to announce on November 1st. So you want to stick around for that. And actually, this was another. Man, we were actually making some great segue points today. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, we're on top of it.
Yeah. So this was a conversation you and I very specifically had. Was in-depth educational panels at cons. Um, when we started doing the demos and just getting like all the great conversation we had in those, I was like, wow, okay, people kind of want this. And then something we got to talking about, especially after World Without Cons cosplayer, was like how Wigwig does educational panels
Hmm.
at cons,
They
and
do some of the less common ones. So like they'll do leather working and some other ones,
mhm,
not necessarily just the basic ones. Which kind of one question that maybe you guys can help is how many like advanced panels have you seen at cons, or is it mostly like sewing 101, armor 101 kind of thing? Do
yeah,
you really see the maybe not necessarily advanced, but intermediate or advanced panels going on
hmm,
about cosplay related creation things?
yeah, or because and actually to that point was I was gonna say yeah, I'm kind of curious what do
Yeah,
you have
I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, but what?
if it tells you anything, but well, and actually to that point, one thing we had noticed was how
Shoe making panel. Interesting.
oh wait, I think I remember what con was that? Because I that rings a
I remember
bell.
the distressing one, but I don't remember the shoemaking one.
Yeah, and we
Like
did, and the 3D
always
printing
random
one. We
3D
yeah,
design
I
ones.
remember at Ushi. Yeah, so well, and that's actually a very good point there. The oh, San Japan. Okay, so that's one thing I had wondered about was uh basically all we did. That was one thing I had really wondered was what's the interest level in that level of discussion? I mean, when we did the photo demos, I mean, to a point, cosplay shot could have been 101 technically, but light painting really could have probably would be I would consider intermediate because of what you have to
Mm,
consider. Um, but I'm gonna go based off of my observation, and Kirsten, tell me what you have seen. So whenever I see educational panels at cons, it's typically guest driven. And like you mentioned before, it's really at a 101 level.
mhm.
So I don't know if you had seen anything different um, in that regard as far as like who's presenting and the material being presented. So,
So most of the creation based ones do tend to be guests. Now there are some attendees, that I have seen that do panels, but some of them are kind of more obscure ones because generally the guests will take the ones of, okay, here is basic armor making, here's basic sewing.
Mm-hmm.
Occasionally there will be the basic 3D printing one. Though I like the ones that cover more 3D printing and design,
Yeah.
but the designing aspect can make it more complicated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's leans towards guests, but attendees do put forward some panels as well.
Yeah. So I'm really curious about why that is. So I don't know. For one, like I said, like I have to wonder if attendees want that kind of content, that in-depth content, and if they do, are they actually saying anything to the conventions at all? I don't know.
One thing I just remembered at oh boy, uh Acon, when Jay Hart was there, he did one on corset making or bodice making, fancier things, structure very important. I actually think he covered both corsets and bodices because they are different. Lauren and I didn't go because I don't think Lauren was up in time for us to
Oh,
go. We also missed on a kimono making panel because she didn't want to wake up early enough. But from what Rebecca said, I think that panel was pretty packed. So even though
okay.
that's can be a more advanced sewing thing, or maybe intermediate if you're doing it the right way,
Mm-hmm.
there definitely was people for it. But I don't know if that's like one of Jay Hart's go-to panels that he knows people like, and not
Right.
necessarily people request that panel. Because
Okay.
like there's your go-to list, and then there could be what people are requesting.
Well, and I was going to say to that point, especially because we have been talking, ball gowns and stuff. I mean, that's probably, especially because how there is such an interest in that, it's probably like an easy gateway, even though it's really kind of like a intermediate
Oh, there's so
conversation.
much to ball gowns.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So I think there is that to
I
consider.
have my petticoat mountain like piled right there.
Petticoat Mountain,
What
yes.
was it? 56 yards of 60-inch wide organza went into it.
Yeah, you have
It's a
fun
lot
with
of
that, okay?
fabric. So for whenever Glinda is done, it's gonna be a foofy monster, but a
Yes.
well supported foofy monster.
And then we just got to go find a place to shoot it. Unless we like go to Russia or something. I
I
don't
got
know.
okay. So the comment about the 3D printing, the downloading the model, I that is like a pet peeve, especially when they don't even bother to be like, oh yeah, it was so and so's model. Like that's
Yeah.
it takes so long to properly design things and figure out, okay, well, for this to actually fit on this size print bed, it needs to be sliced like this, and
Hmm.
connections like this.
Well, and I was gonna say, as
Oh,
Egg
so much
said
work.
too, it really also kind of depends on the tools. Like you, Kirsten, you had moved from Tinkercad to Fusion 360, especially after we saw the one panel with Carl Martin at
Yeah.
IkiCon
Uh,
that one year.
yeah,
Um,
that was one. His panel was right around when I started using Fusion 360 because I first started using Tinkercad, which is very basic. Like, here's your circle, or well, your sphere and your cube. You can overlap, cut pieces out, and make it work.
yeah.
And then Fusion 360, I think the way Carl Martin explained it was it's more mechanical. So you have
Yeah.
like different vertices on a surface you can play with, and then there's things like ZBrush, which is more like sculpting, and I eventually want to try
Yeah, I
ZBrush.
know you had talked, you and I had talked about ZBrush, so
I've seen people use it. Uh, yeah, I would call it plagiarism if a model is used but not credited. Well, it's kind of tricky because if you like do the finishing work on it, so the your finishing work counts towards you, but not necessarily like the designing of it. Some judges will just not consider the designing of the object, but think more about how you finished the object. Or at least in my experience, that's kind of how it's treated.
yeah, I was gonna say I think there's a lot of very interesting aspects to that, and I think that might at some point that would actually be a really interesting conversation as far as design technique versus cosplay judging. That would be I don't know.
Yes, it is
Yeah.
always good
Mm-hmm.
etiquette to credit. I know I least at MTA, we try to do a lot of crediting, whether it's the patterns we use, cough, cough. I love my Cosmic Coterie bows, and I will always credit them. And actually,
Yes,
that
you
red
do.
thing
Yes, you
in the
do.
corner, that's a Cosmic Coterie bow. And then I haven't really bought 3D models to use, but it definitely, if you buy an accessory or a model or a pattern, you should credit them because people put a lot of work into that.
Yeah,
So,
and like for me with the even the video stuff, I've credited the person who does the intro music and eventually outro music once I can figure that out. Um, and also the people who took the photos for World Without Cons cosplayer because I used it in the thumbnail and all the promo images. I made sure to tribute to that,
mhm.
tribute them. Because, honestly, I have seen so much image theft with cosplay, so I'm very big about attribution and proper attribution. So,
The lack of credit is why I'm so iffy about like, well, yeah, I've spent hours designing things for Lauren and I to use for our costumes. Like, so let me just go ahead and grab it.
hmm
So, like, one of the things that I've done is a little cheapy moon brooch.
yeah,
I could put the design up and sell it. The other brooches I've done, but I'm like, people might just use this and that's it. Or, well, they'll take it and they will try to tweak it slightly, make it theirs. I mean, like, aka they change one thing on it and then sell it themselves, or they make a mold of it and sell it themselves. So there's a lot of problems, especially when it comes to 3D design and
yeah.
printing, why some people are very, very hesitant to put their work out there.
Or you just maybe charge the right amount to kind of incentivize people just to go buy the plans.
Yeah, well, there's some. Oh, I don't remember what Etsy sellers is, but I was looking at getting some pattern. I didn't end up buying it, but what they say in their description for it is this is the private use. So if you're using it for yourself,
hmm
do this. However, if you're going to commercially use it and sell it, contact me. There's a separate rate for commercial use.
Yeah, commercial use license, yeah.
Mm.
Um, well, and I was gonna say, as far as like going back to my comment about good pricing, Dangerous Ladies, you can get like some of their 3D designs, and they have really good info. And so I was like, yeah, I'll give you $20. I don't give a fuck.
Mhm.
It's $20.
And then, heck, even the Cosmic Coterie recently, I guess they were doing something with Sparkle Pipsy's bow pattern,
Okay.
and they did get a commercial license from her to use her pattern and for whatever they did.
hmm
But yeah. So, and I mean, even when they were just working with this bow model, they always credited that, well, we started with hers and we tweaked it a lot to get to this. But they still
Okay.
put where they started in their post.
Well, and I think this also maybe potentially. And I know we're slightly going off the rails here, but I think it's an interesting
It's
conversation.
fine.
Um, it's a very interesting thing to consider is, the creative or the collaborative building of educational material. Like, well, I say educational material, but I think you know where I'm getting at here, and how that would help everybody involved. Just overall. So, Jesus, Dow, really knocked over a damn can. Jesus. Um,
Extends.
so going back to the whole yes, cut, tab, cut. Yeah, of course. So anyway,
Don't have
actually
a cat,
going
but I have a bird.
the burb.
The bird.
The burb. So one last thing I actually had on here, because it was something I had even wondered about from this perspective. Are cons looking for this kind of material in their programming?
I haven't really done any con panels other than our light stuff, so this is something I don't really know about. So
Yeah,
if anyone in the
and
chat does have insight for what cons like request for panels and how that exchange goes, we'd love
well,
to hear.
so I'm gonna make a once again a point from observation. The last time we went to SJ, I noticed that a lot of their panels were very fandom based. They didn't really have a lot of educational material. Period. Uh, some of the others are a little better, but like I said, mostly guest driven
Mhm.
for whatever reason. So, and if I want to take a I'm
Oh,
really
I
kind of
think we're
curious what
waiting
Dee's
for
going
a
to.
big bomb to be dropped. We
Yeah.
got cat.
I hold
Please,
on.
we want to know.
Yes, we would like to know. So, um, why isn't the guy on the right talking? What? Okay. So anyway, kind of as the other side of that, and actually give me just a moment here. I just need to do something here. Oops. So, on the other extreme side of that, I'm going to bring up MagFest because they have a system of what's called. Jesus Christ.
It's called POW.
Yeah, it's called TauCon. That's what it is. So no, they actually have a programming track called Mages, which is their educational system. So, and actually the last time I was there or worked with them, they were actually doing two programming tracks for educational material. It was for music creation and production. It was for game production, stuff like that. So, but I never see that sort of thing anywhere else. Period. And I don't know why. I don't know why that's not a thing being explored in other cons. I was going to say, and you don't have anything to say to that. You're just kind of like,
Yeah, the educational content in the panel format, it's very hit and miss too. Because I mean, sometimes at cons, like Lauren and I will look at the list and be like, well, none of this really screams that we need to go to. Like at KatsuCon, we went to one panel. It was the Sailor Fuku one that some of the Cosmic Coterie members, as well as a couple of other big Moonies, went ahead and did.
yeah.
But the other stuff, it was just kind of like, meh, it's not too interesting. Which, if it did have more of the educational stuff that wasn't necessarily at the intro level, I think it would be more interesting.
Yeah.
And you were Q&A with like people in character. Sorry, but that gets kind of boring to have at every single con. So
Yeah, I was just thinking like,
we only need so many game show type panels.
Yeah. Actually, that reminds me, Ushicon. I feel bad for like the one guys who were doing game shows kept being like the panel like right after us during our photo demos. I felt bad for those guys,
Okay,
but they were
too,
cool.
that their game show setup actually did look interesting and was not
Yes.
boring like other game shows.
Yes, definitely. And actually, to a point, since we got SoCos here, I know I've seen them do Anime Jeopardy at cons, and they definitely really try to bring up the production value. So there is definitely that. So that was really all I actually had on this. But I think, like I said, with us having the really great conversations at conventions after our demos, and some of the conversations we've had with our guests.
You're wrong, Rob. It wasn't them.
What's that? Oh, I thought it was. Oh, I thought you guys or no, not Anime Jeopardy, Gundam Jeopardy. Thank you. I had to think about it for a moment. I was getting it mixed up. So I swear it was like one of you doing Gundam Jeopardy at Ushicon or this past one, from what I remember. So, oh, that also wasn't you. Oh shit. Oh, well, my bad. So, yeah, and I think that's also. Where's Louise? Damn it. Let's say, yeah.
And I can definitely say from what I've seen that Michelle Hart was involved in, all the cosplay related things were just great.
Yeah. So, and then there's another thing too is really probably just who's involved. So there is that. So I think, oh yeah, electronics and cosplays. Oh god, yeah, I would love to see that just to see how people tackle. Period. You know?
It'd be fun, especially if you get to more advanced things, not just like LEDs, but actually programming likely in C++ and getting into Arduinos and the different types of Arduinos you can
Oh
use.
yeah,
Fun.
I would love to
Maybe we
see.
can do one of the lives talking about that because I do have an Arduino, as well as some bootleg Arduino Nanos that kind of work.
Right. Well, I was gonna say, and also to that regard, another one would be, robotics. Like the, oh man, I wish I could remember her name.
Animatronic type stuff, you mean?
What's that?
You mean like animatronics or
Yeah.
actual robotics?
Well, no, animatronics. Like there was the, oh man, I wish I could remember her name, but she blew up really hard, because she did, excuse me, Steph.
You're talking about the Mercy from Ikicon, where her
Yes,
wings broke
yes,
and stuff
her,
behind her
her.
carrier wings. Yes. Tiffany Gordon cosplay.
Thank you, thank you. I couldn't like I
Like,
don't have her on the MTA
at some
account,
point,
so.
I need to get servos or do an actuator type thing to finally make some Mercy wings because, like, I have the circuit know-how and I think I have the coding know-how to do that. I just need to
Mm-hmm.
do it. I want to make moving Mercy wings with
Yeah.
lights.
Well, and also to that point, because like LED strips, especially how like 50/50, strips of 50/50 LEDs are individually addressable, and how
Mm-hmm.
you could do eventually interesting things, probably with an
Really easy to
Arduino.
get with some LED strips is the minimum current required
Yeah.
and then what the Arduinos can handle.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the Arduinos typically have 5 volts or 3 volts for the
Yeah.
power that it uses, but some things need more than 5 volts. So you're gonna have to have like a little power boost type thing in there.
Yeah. Well,
Just
I was
look
gonna say like 30/30
at
strips, they take
roughly
5 volts.
when it comes to electronics and how to do them.
So yeah, I mean, there's a ton here. So yeah, I would agree with that. There is definitely an educational help, in that. So, like I said, there's so much potential in this kind of thing. And we just need to figure out, it's like, okay, how does anybody who wants to do this get it into the mainstream, and where we eventually get big educational tracks in anime and comic cons or whatever. So,
Hmm. I think
uh,
one thing that YouTube comments are reminding me of, whenever I get around to playing with little smokers or foggers for armor, because I don't necessarily want to construct the unit myself. I plan to use like things from model trains and tanks, some of the parts you use in that, because I've done a little bit of
mhm,
research. Maybe when it comes to the rounds of tinkering, we can do that on a live stream, because that could be very fun.
yeah, just have your little smoker dudes like put
Yeah.
out a big fat vape or something. I don't know.
Well, the main problem I'm having right now is because, like, coding it to turn on and off, that will be pretty easy. The issue is not code or like mechanical related, it's how is it to refill it?
Yeah.
Can we refill it? I don't
Yeah.
want to have to, rip that out of the armor in order to do it. And the thing
Hmm.
with building your own little chambers is getting it waterproof so that
Yeah.
none of your liquid leaks out and gets on your electronics.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and kind of to that point about using any electronics, especially LEDs, is actually in the planning and the wire routing, and you know, depending on what you're putting it in, is there potentially an overheat issue or something? Who knows? You know. So
And is it where we say parallel is better for LEDs and not series?
yeah, something like that. Yes. So
Yes.
oh,
Yeah, for the fogger, for our Ebon Blade stuff, one of the things I want to go back and add is one, switch to not just on off circuits. I want to actually get working Arduino Nanos to do some cool fades and whatnot, and possibly add the foggers into all of the shoulders. And maybe if I make Illyria's bow, the dragon skull will have a fogger because I'm like, it's a dragon skull. It needs fog.
yeah,
It'd be,
yeah, exactly.
it just brings up that visual effect.
Yeah, and like I said, there's so much of this that could be done.
Well, actually, one thing this reminds me of that Rebecca was like, well, I don't know if you could use a fog machine in a contest because isn't that like stuff leaving your armor and you're not allowed to do that and this and that? And I was like, it's just fog. It's not like I'm throwing glitter all over the place. And it's not
Yeah.
pyrotechnics, so
Well, actually, that does remind me of something, which actually, God, like I said, the rabbit hole is apparently deep. But I'm gonna end with this because you mentioned that was there was a rule actually IkiCon added to their cosplay contest because Lorelai and I think it was Joe, they did Captain Global and Misa from the original Macross. And Captain Global, there's a joke where he always has a pipe that, and one of them always yells like "Don't smoke on the bridge." So Joe actually had a e-cig that he hid in a pipe, so he could actually get the smoke effect out of it. And after that, they literally actually put in a rule says you cannot do that. And and I do know there are some about using smoke machines.
there's a lot of using an e-cigarette into a smoke machine. Kamui actually, I think it has a video on it, as
Hmm.
well as a couple of other people. So,
So yeah, there that was definitely a
oh, and the mixed result things in terms of electronics and costumes,
hmm.
I do find that interesting because I mean, some characters it doesn't really make sense to have the electronics and the lighting up bits, but other things do. It's really depends.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and that's also,
Defense director.
yeah, I was going to say,
Words,
no,
Rob. Words.
no, I was thinking about just judges' take on that sort of thing, whether they like it or not. Um, so there's always that, like how extra are they willing to accept?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So I think that's really about it. Thanks everyone. Like this is some amazingly good chat. So this is like the kind of thing we're going for with this whole channel. So remember, if you haven't entered our giveaway, it's like we're going to be announcing the winner November 1st. We're just going to be doing a short stream just to do that. Um, but yeah, I was gonna say if you want to like maybe learn embroidery or save some money on a art or wig, that's a great way to do that. Is potentially go enter the contest.
And I know we all love our art of wigs. They're just expensive.
Yes, they are. So,
Yeah. I say as I have one of them right there.
yep. So, Kirsten, any last words from you before we end it here?
Mm, I think I'm good.
All right. So, yeah, I was gonna say
Oh, and I
we're
do agree with the struggling to find the right amount of extra. Because it's like
yeah.
idol costumes, you know. You can have rhinestones and glitter, but there's a point where there's probably too much rhinestones and glitter.
Yeah. I was gonna say, and once again, that's going to be a very interesting subject at some point. So, what's the right kind of extra for
Yeah,
anything?
how much extra is enough extra?
Yeah, exactly. So, all right, I think we're going to go ahead and end it here. Uh, we'll get this out to YouTube either today, or later today, or tomorrow, one of the two. So, but most importantly, get them ideas, make them awesome. We'll see you next time.